Hello, I'm Debbie from So Easy, and today we're going to look at how we can make this very simple cosmetics bag. It has a flat bottom, it's narrow at the top, wider at the bottom, and perfectly sized to take a few toiletries or for a makeup bag. The pattern is free, you can get that from the So Easy blog, and underneath this video there'll be a link to where you can download the pattern. And to start with, you need 2 pieces for your outer fabric, and a further 2 pieces for your lining fabric, and you'll need a 9-inch zipper. Now I would like my bag to be quite stiff and also padded, so I've added a interfacing to the back of my outside pieces, and then I've also used a fusible fleece, so the bag's going to stand up nicely on its own, and it's also going to be nice and padded so that it'll protect all of the contents. We need to start at the top of the bag, and we'll start with the zip. We need 1 piece of outer fabric, 1 piece of lining fabric and your zip. And if you open out the zip, it often makes it easier to work with. And I'm going to put the zip face down, so the zipper pull itself will be facing down towards the outside fabric, like this. And then I'm going to put the right side of my lining fabric over the top, and I'm just going to line up the raw edges, so the edge of the fabric and the edge of the zipper tape will be together. I'll line up the lining fabric exactly the same, and then take a few pins and just hold those in place. Now I need to add the zipper foot into my machine, and I'm going to run down next to the zipper teeth and sew a seam all the way from one side to the other along the top of the bag, and that will catch the zip in between the outer fabric and the lining fabric. So that's my first side completed. Now I need to sew the other side of the zip. So I'm going to close it up and just turn it over. And I need the other right side, so that will face the right side that I already have, and the zip will go along there. And then I'm going to also put the lining fabric, and that's going to match the right side too, so the lining fabric will go face down, and exactly the same. I'll match up these raw edges, pin them in place, and then using the zipper foot I'll sew along next to the zip, and then I'll come back and just show you what that looks like. So once you have the zip sewn in on both sides, it looks kind of funny, but on the top side here you've got your 2 outer fabrics, and your 2 inner fabrics are on the underside. And you just need to open up this seam, make sure the lining fabric is out of the way, and press that nice and flat with your iron. And then do exactly the same on the front, press everything nice and flat, and then we'll do a bit more stitching. So my bag is pressed nice and neatly, and these seams here now lie nice and flat. But during use we don't want the lining to start creeping up behind, because it could get caught in the zip. So what we're going to do is take it back to the machine, and still using the zipper foot, make sure everything is flattened out nice and smooth, and then just 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the fabric on either side of the zip, just run a line of stitching along here and also along there. So that's now the top stitching down the zip here is now completed. So it's time for us to start making the actual shape of the bag itself. So I'll open the zip all the way out, and then it's a case of taking the 2 front outer panels together and taking the 2 lining panels together, and I'm going to pin around, matching everything up. So I'll quickly do that off camera, and then I'll show you what it looks like. So I now have my 2 layers pinned in place. I've pinned the 2 right sides together and the 2 pieces of lining fabric together. And now we need to sew, and I've used my disappearing fabric marker to show exactly where we will sew on the bag. So looking at the outer fabric, you need to sew all along the bottom of the bag. Then if you look on the sides, angle that for the camera, then you'll sew all the way from here up, carefully over the zipper, angle here with your needle and sew all the way down to this point, and complete that exactly the same on the other side panel. Then when it comes to the bottom of the lining, we need to leave a gap in the lining here so that we can turn the bag inside out later on. So all you do is just sew a couple of inches at the bottom of each corner. Now where we are not going to sew is anywhere where we have these right angled corners. So both in the lining and in the outer fabric itself. At the moment, don't sew those right angled corners. So I'll do my sewing and then we'll come back. So the outside of my bag is mostly sewn, but we do need to deal with these corner parts. And if you pick them up, obviously that's a rectangle, but if you open the fabric out this way, suddenly it becomes a flat or nearly flat seam, and it's probably best to sew it with one of these seam allowances pressed one way, one of them pressed the other way. And if we straighten that out, that's great, and put a couple of pins in there. And then you need to sew in a straight line from here all the way across to the other side, and we'll repeat that for all four corners. So you open them out, match up, and then stagger your seam allowances, pin and stitch, and it will be exactly the same for these outer pieces. Match them up, stagger the seam allowances and stitch them, and I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. So now that it's stitched, you can get a better idea of what that corner is going to look like. Where we have the flat part of the bottom just here, I flatten that out, and automatically where we have the point in the bag, it just gives us a little extra there, and all you need to do is follow the straight line. So you follow a straight line of stitches across here, and once it's sewn, we're just going to trim that seam down just to reduce the bulk in the corners of the bag. And that's that taken care of. So now we need to turn our bag the right way out, and it's a case of where you have the hole in the bottom of the lining, pop your hand through, grab one of the bag corners and start to gradually ease it out through the bottom of the bag. Okay, it's starting to take shape, and now I can get my hand down inside through that gap in the lining still, and I can use my finger to just poke out these corners, make them nice and crisp. That's looking good. Same at this other end. Okay, so the bag is looking very good. Almost completed. We have just one more thing to do, because of course the lining is still open here in the bottom. So if I just neaten that out a little bit with my fingers. And if I take where the stitched part is, just fold in there and hold. Same up at this other end. Oh, hello cat. Honestly, when I talk to myself, the cat thinks I talk to him. He comes out to say hello. And it's just a case of pinning along this bottom hem where you have the open area, folding in the 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then if you just either hand stitch or just stitch with your machine along the bottom, then the bag will be closed. So I'll finish that off now, and then I'll bring back a picture of the finished bag at the end. So here we go, the little bag's now completed. It looks really dinky, I think, very nice. Zips up beautifully along the top, and I think that's something that's really great either for you to use yourself or give as gifts, or if you want to, you're even quite free to use this free pattern to go ahead and make these bags to sell on your own store or on Etsy. Thank you very much for following along. I'm Debbie at Sew Sew Easy, and I hope you'll drop over to the site and pick up the free pattern.